Hello again, everyone, and thanks so much for joining us for this Friday's edition of Alaska Weather. I'm Dave Percy, a meteorologist with the National Weather Service, and I'll be hosting today's show. Up first here, hazardous weather graphics. There is no hazardous weather in the forecast here. No watches, warnings, or advisories here. Southern Alaska, Aleutians, Pribilof, southeast coast looking good. And up north too, no weather watches, weather warnings, or advisories, or even any fire watches or warnings as well. So moving on to the, let's see, one more there, okay. Fire danger, got areas of, still a little bit here in the Copper River Basin, nothing like it was earlier on, in fact barely reaching the threshold there. And then some areas here over the central interior, high to very high. The largest area, the Yukon Flats here along the Yukon River, Porcupine River there, not too far to the east or north, and then off over the Koyukuk Valley in areas down into, well, right about there, and also in the greater Fairbanks area, about this side, including the Dehne, some high to very high fire dangers there. Otherwise, too wet here, south central Alaska now, and back to the southwest. And also for the Panhandle, as a fair amount of precipitation rolled in there today with a frontal system right there, kind of taking its time moving through. A couple of waves developing along the frontal band, as you can see, one right about here, and another one as it rolls into the south there, and some pretty good rainfall amounts today associated with that. Otherwise, a little bit of clearing there north of the Alaska Range, up from, say, south of Eagle down in toward North Wayertok and mostly in between. And then clouds here and showers, rain becoming more showery here, and lighter amounts south central Alaska than what we saw along the North Gulf Coast and into the Panhandle today. Band of moisture right through here. Any precipitation with that, pretty darn light and widely scattered or isolated, nothing significant. And a good upper level trough coming southeastward across the Alaska Peninsula and Aleutian Range today. That brought kind of some moderate showers with it and gusty west winds as well. And Kodiak Island, at least on the east side there, Kodiak State Airport, in the dry side, westerly flow, and that's pretty dry there, so no precipitation today, and showers off to the east. Probably we'll get a few showers of this thing coming through from about this time and early this evening, but that'll be mostly on the west side of the island. And out west, you can see the cloud shield associated with the next storm, bringing wind and rain and into the western Aleutians, pushing eastward here. Looks like getting into the Adak area late this afternoon. Otherwise, high pressure, area high pressure developing here over the eastern Bering, and that's going to be coming in tomorrow for pretty nice conditions. Moisture moving out and continue to dry, or showers will continue in, and skies will begin to gradually lose the clouds. This area will persist obviously a little bit longer than either to the south or north, but looking really good for the first day of the weekend. And then it looks like the mainland areas, this will be, of course, coming in tomorrow into the eastern Bering, Pribilof, Alaska Peninsula. Rainfall almost making the southwest coast by tomorrow evening. Probably by tomorrow evening it will make landfall with this. And then good southwest flow is going to push that right on into the interior, especially southern interior. Mostly the southern interior on Sunday, with the upper system actually staying a little bit to the south here. We'll move across Kodiak Island, much the same way that this one has, very similar but not identical. On the chart today, you can see the front with good significant rainfall amounts over especially the drought-stricken southern southeast coast there. Klawock picking up 1.12 inches. That's in a 12-hour period ending at 3 p.m. this afternoon. Shelter Cove had just under 2 inches with 1.80 reported. Otherwise, Petersburg, Sitka, about 2/3 of an inch and 1/2 inch at Juneau. And then Yakutat just under an inch of rain today, during the day today, and about the same. Cordova, a little over an inch of precipitation, and then amounts much lighter, becoming more showery here back to the west and along the Alaska Peninsula, anywhere from a quarter to possibly as high as 1/2 inch of rain falling in these areas from Iliamna on down along the Alaska Peninsula. Also pretty gusty winds, Cold Bay, western Alaska Peninsula areas, King Cove and False Pass, gusts 40 to 50 miles an hour out of the west today, as that trough, this trough axis here signifying the upper low that's coming southeastward. And you can also see the clearing skies there and the downsloping winds off the Aleutian Range and Kodiak up into, actually the southern Kenai Peninsula could have seen some clearing today. Also some sunshine here over the Yukon-Kuskokwim Delta areas, partly sunny at times at the Kuskokwim Valley. North of the Alaska Range, not a bad day, sunshine, Tanana Valley, from the upper Tanana Valley back to the west, and then just this band of clouds, more sunshine to the north, and then some isolated showers, cloudy skies along the Arctic coast. And that system pushing, or the next system here, that front sliding rain eastward, probably making Atka here by evening, but still dry for the eastern Aleutians. And tonight, that rain shield will move in and clouds will increase over Unalaska, and rainfall will begin to increase over Unmak Island. Rain, definitely, periods of rain for the central Aleutians, and rain with a main low center back toward the western Aleutians. Otherwise, we've got high pressure developing here in advance of that, as I mentioned. So showers will be decreasing slowly here along the Alaska Peninsula, becoming pretty isolated toward morning. But light winds and mostly cloudy skies, IFR here for the northern Bering Sea, St. Lawrence Island area, and probably the Arctic coast. You'll be dry too. Showers now shifting eastward and also slowly shifting eastward here. They'll probably linger throughout the night here over the eastern Copper River Basin, Wrangell Mountain areas. And that front weakens into a trough, pushes into British Columbia. So you'll be scattering out to some showers here for the southeast coast, but the low center here tracking kind of east or east-southeast, a big area of rain associated with that, and that's going to roll right on in, especially the southern areas during the day tomorrow. Taking a look at that, that low actually tracks off to just west of the Queen Charlotte's. Enough moisture with it. Look for rain changing slowly to showers, but that may persist throughout much of the day here over the southern panhandle. Otherwise, as you head north, they'll become more scattered and isolated, eventually breaking out to some sunshine for Juneau, Haines, Klondike Highway, maybe Elfin Cove, Yakutat. A lot drier today than what you, or a lot drier tomorrow than what you saw today. And showers lingering into the afternoon there for Mentasta Pass, Eastern Alaska Range, Northway, possibly Tok, and those areas, but those will be also diminishing in the afternoon. Otherwise, mostly sunny here over the interior with light winds, mostly sunny south central Alaska, Kodiak Island, mostly sunny, highs in the 60s. Bristol Bay, same forecast. Nice all the way up to the north slope, maybe some clearing even on the Arctic coast. Next storm, though, here bringing moderate amounts of rain, a good shot of moisture with this into the eastern Aleutians. Rain possibly heavy at times on up to the Pribilofs, moderate to possibly isolated, or for a short time heavy, and then moisture trying to push up towards St. Lawrence Island. And we'll take a look at the second day of the weekend. Shaping up like this, that system tracks, the low center tracks due east here right into the southwest coast Saturday night, and then by mid-afternoon Sunday here right just crossing the Alaska Range. And so a good shot of rain, some good solid rain coming in across southern Alaska with that, especially Bristol Bay once again, Kuskokwim Valley, and south central Alaska into Prince William Sound, that kind of south-southeast flow with that. And then rain will be increasing slowly. Probably won't make Yakutat and trying to spill into the Copper River Basin. Otherwise, north of the Alaska Range looking pretty good, partly to mostly sunny. And then some isolated showers with a weak trough up along the Brooks Range and North Slope. High pressure developing again over the western Aleutians. Light winds there all the way to Adak. And then some gusty winds, could see 50-mile-an-hour wind gusts out of the west-northwest here coming across the Alaska Peninsula, kind of like today. And another trough that's not quite as strong. We'll keep it unsettled over the Yukon Delta. Otherwise, mostly sunny for the southeast coast. Lows tonight over the Panhandle, upper 40s to near 50. Lower 40s Copper River Basin, mid-30s eastern interior. And shade below the frost point there for the Brooks Range, Anatuvik, and Arctic Village. Otherwise, mid to upper 30s the Arctic coast, 40s everywhere else. And highs tomorrow, sunshine. Mid to upper 60s to Sitna Valley, Kenai Peninsula. Same thing for the Copper River Basin. 60 to 65 there from the central interior, back down toward McGrath and Nikolai, and lower 40s on the Arctic coast. And looking at highs, upper 50s to maybe mid 60s, warmest in the northern areas there, like Haines, could see 64. and 50s to even lower 60s for the Alaska Peninsula, Eastern Aleutians, mid-50s for the Pribilofs, near 50 for St. Lawrence Island. Lows to Saturday morning, again, lower to mid-30s here in the eastern interior, North Slope on out to the Arctic coast, 40s everywhere else. And for the highs in the afternoon on Sunday, 60s for the Panhandle with mostly sunny skies, 60s Tanana Valley, and upper 50s with the rain over southern Alaska, mostly in the 50s there, and near 40 on the Arctic coast.
And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Saturday morning's flying weather graphic here, zone of IFR from the Alaska Peninsula right up along the coast here from west of Togiak Bay, Cape Newingham, up along the Yukon Delta, at least southern portion, and VFR here in the interior, high pressure building in. So these areas of marginal and IFR, which are pretty isolated here, they'll be improving during the morning. North Slope, Arctic coast, IFR, and the Panhandle with that upper level system slowly dropping off to the southeast. You're going to start out with IFR mostly over the eastern and northern portions, marginal to the west, and for the afternoon, most of the moisture, as that upper level system pulls southeastward, flow becomes offshore. So becoming VFR probably late in the afternoon here with the southern Panhandle, sooner up north. Mostly VFR, just about all VFR here over the interior, north of the Brooks Range, marginal for the North Slope, and looks like IFR affecting mostly the eastern Arctic coast. And zone of IFR here kind of breaking up along the southwest coast of the Bering Strait, and then the next storm bringing a bigger batch into the southern Bering, pushing to the, looks like the Alaska Peninsula by afternoon, otherwise Kodiak Island, North Gulf Coast, VFR. And for Sunday morning, IFR, most of the North Slope and central and eastern Beaufort Sea coast, IFR Bering Strait, and then just a huge area here over the eastern Bering Sea, pushing into the southwest coast here, Yukon-Kuskokwim Delta, especially Bristol Bay. Probably not making it to King Salmon yet, but conditions lowering along the western Alaska Range, IFR, Alaska Peninsula to the central Aleutians, and VFR for the Panhandle, and much of the eastern interior until you get up to the Brooks Range. And for Sunday afternoon, moisture coming in, so high pressure pushing off to the east. And we've got IFR along and on the east side of the western Alaska Range, all the way down to the Aleutian Range. And for the southern Kenai Peninsula, up into western Prince William Sound, maybe even the northern Sound, looks IFR. Stays VFR for the southeast coast and Yakutat and most of the Cop River Basin, central eastern interior, pretty good with VFR conditions. And the Bering Sea, not all that bad, just mostly marginal, with some areas of VFR breaking out. And for Anaktuvuk, VFR, possible marginal VFR, northern entrance. Same forecast for Addington as well. Lowest conditions will be on the north entrance. Lake Clark and Merrill, VFR tomorrow. And same forecast for rainy, VFR, windy. VFR day coming up. And Isabel starting out marginal, becoming VFR later in the morning. Mentasta, same trend, marginal, and then becoming VFR hopefully by noon. And then for Tanita, VFR. Portage, marginal becoming VFR, possible marginal in the morning, some lower stuff, and then VFR shortly thereafter. And for Chilkoot and White, improving quite rapidly, IFR really early, and then VFR coming in quite probably by noontime or sooner. And for the freezing level, 6,000 feet here over the southeast coast with that cool upper level low that's sliding southeastward. About 8,000 over the interior, and much warmer conditions ahead of that storm coming into the Aleutian southern Bering Sea. You can see 12 to 14,000 feet. Icing, could be some areas of considerable moderate here, but they're going to be way up there above 13,000 feet or so with those high freezing levels. Eastern Aleutians back toward Adak and Atka, and then slipping down to about 7,000 feet of the light isolated moderate rime variety there. Here pushing into the Pribilofs with the main frontal boundary. This area of icing, Panhandle decreasing, may linger into the later part of the afternoon over the southern areas, but the whole mess shifting off to the southeast. Jet stream reaching here, coming in. We have actually a pretty good jet cutting through Bristol Bay here, northwest 150 knots, 140 to 150. With that, and then the higher pressure, one center up here over the northeast interior. So a pretty good day for interior Alaska coming up. This system pushing off to the southeast. and 9,000 feet. Big storm out here. Western Bering Sea, the next one. Pretty good winds, 45 to 70 knots associated with that, dropping back to about 20 here for the southwest coast. High pressure, light winds, 5 to 15 knots here for the interior and the panhandle. 3,000 feet, much the same pattern, 5 to 10 knot winds, light over the interior, stronger with this next system, 25 to as high as 50 knots, mostly over the Aleutians. Turbulence with those gusty winds. Occasional moderate chop here, especially for small aircraft, anywhere from gradually progressing eastward here on Alaska Island back out to about Kiska Island. And after the break, I'll be back with a look at the marine forecast.
What we're looking at is a legacy of the Ice Age. Permafrost and methane is a time machine. So what we're going to do is walk back in time. We're going to see old carbon, old bones, old environments, and none of those are in equilibrium with today's climate, so that's the problem. That world doesn't exist anymore, and it hasn't for 10,000 years. It was nicely and very delicately separated from this modern warmer climate by about this much moss. And when that moss goes away, whether for fire or for human disturbance or for warming, then all hell breaks loose.
Permafrost. It's maybe the part of the cryosphere that's most out of sight and mind. It's fascinating how it formed in the first place and how it got loaded with so much carbon. In a minute, we'll go back underground with Matthew Sturm from the University of Alaska Fairbanks. But first, let's meet Peter Griffith, NASA's project manager for the Above campaign, which supports more than 70 science projects studying forest and tundra vegetation, wildfires, animals like birds, caribou, and Dall sheep, methane emissions from expanding northern lakes, and the impacts of climate change on people in Alaska, Canada, and around the world. Many of those projects have some direct connection to permafrost.
Permafrost is the hidden cryosphere. It's the permanently frozen soil that surrounds the Arctic, all across Alaska, northern Canada, and then across Eurasia. The ground has been frozen during the ice ages.
During the ice ages, there was not enough snowfall in the drier regions of Alaska and Canada to form glaciers there, so the land was suitable for vegetation.
What happened is that over thousands and thousands of years, all of that plant material got compacted and frozen every winter and buried and pushed down, so that today there's 300 feet deep of frozen water and dead plants and some pieces of dead animals too. Sometimes you find woolly mammoths in the permafrost. But most of it, of the organic matter as we call it in the permafrost, is frozen plant material.
Some of that plant material is now thawing and decaying, releasing its ancient carbon into the atmosphere, sometimes in the form of methane gas bubbling out of expanding northern lakes.
We started this field campaign because the Arctic is the part of the planet that is warming first and fastest. And there are consequences to this for permafrost. So during the Arctic Boreal Vulnerability Experiment, we're studying permafrost with people on the ground, from aircraft flying over the region, and also from satellites in space.
Another way to understand the permafrost is to take a walk below ground with Matthew Sturm and into the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers permafrost tunnel.
And they've dug this tunnel back into the side of a hill about 200 feet, and it goes sort of sloping down so that by the end of the tunnel you're about 100 feet underground, and you're surrounded by bones sticking out of the wall from the steppe bison and mastodons that are frozen in it. There's sticks that are 40,000 years old, that you can touch with your hand. There's grass that's still green that's tens of thousands of years old because it got frozen, right away, and it's never lost the green color.
But as fascinating as it is to see these relics of an ancient era, or to see a tree split in half by thawing soil, or even to light a ball of methane on fire from under winter ice, at the end of the day, Peter and his colleagues want to know just how much organic matter is frozen in that permafrost, and how fast it might be released.
Currently, we think that there is something on the order of 2 to 3 times as much carbon locked up as frozen organic matter in permafrost as there is carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. So releasing all of that organic carbon from permafrost into the atmosphere would be a real game changer. That would be a tremendous transformation of the planet's atmosphere. Now, the good news is that it would take a very, very long time for that to happen. However, we are warming the planet at a rate now that calls into question how quickly is that changing and what the consequences in the near future and in the far future are going to be.
You're in the middle of a field somewhere in California at 4 in the morning. It's sort of surreal in a way because you've put so much time into it for so long, and actually seeing it over there is like, whoa, it's a big deal.
And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Welcome back. Friday sea ice analysis just finished about an hour ago. Here showing this is really close to being the no ice chart, way off the coast here up to the north, and really may start seeing some new ice form as the temperatures start to cool up here. And it's hard to say, it's been so long since I've said that. The new ice will start forming probably here during the next week, possibly, with the minimum ice extent likely being reached over the next several days. And for the coastal water forecasts, kind of a convergence zone right here on the central coast of the Panhandle, west of Sitka, southeast 15 knots for the south coast, 9-foot seas, northwest 15, 8 to 9 foot seas on the north coast, and light winds north to northwest at 10 for the inside waters with 2-foot seas. And the outlook for Sunday, 20-knot northwesterlies here along much of the coastline, outer coastline, seas running 8 to 9 feet, and no change over the inside waters. Light northerly winds at 10 knots with 2-foot seas. So a great weekend coming up if you don't like wind. And for Prince William Sound, southwest at 10 tomorrow, west-southwest 15 for the North Gulf Coast. Seas running anywhere from 5 to 6 feet, west 20 for the Barren Islands with 6-foot seas. Kamishak Bay, west 25. That's good for small craft advisories along with the 8-foot seas. Cook Inlet, south to southwest at 10 with 2 to 3-foot seas. And the outlook for Sunday, Prince William Sound east at 15, 3-foot seas, and winds increasing to 20 knots here for the eastern North Gulf Coast, and small craft advisories for the western North Gulf Coast, southeast 25, 8-foot seas. Small craft advisories for the Barrens with southerlies at 30 knots and seas at 8 feet. 20-knot winds, Kamishak Bay. Southeast winds, southern Cook Inlet at 20 knots, and east 15 north of the Forelands. And for Kodiak Island, west-northwest, 20 knots. Could be probably be some higher gusts early on out of the bays, not that much higher, but small craft advisory gusts probably. And west 20 for Bristol Bay, northwest 20, southwest of Sitkinak, and the Alaska Peninsula on the Bering Sea side, south winds 20 knots, Pacific side west of 15. And then Sunday, west winds 30 knots for the Alaska Peninsula, 12 to 13-foot seas. And southwest 30 knots for Kodiak Island with 8 to 10-foot seas, and northwest 30 knots for Bristol Bay with 9-foot seas. And for the western Aleutian, small craft advisories tomorrow, southwest 25 to 30 knots, seas 12 to 13 feet. Central Aleutian small craft advisories, and the Fox Islands small craft advisories, south to southwest winds at 25 to 30 miles per hour. And then for Sunday, westerlies 25 for the Central Aleutians, Adak, Atka, Unmak Island 25 knots, on Alaska Island west 30, seas 11 feet. Lighter winds out west with high pressure building in, northwest 15 to 20. Southwest coast tomorrow, west-southwest 15 knots. Pribilof, small craft advisory, south 25, southeast 20, St. Matthew Island, and northeast 10 to 15, Norton Sound and St. Lawrence Island. And for Sunday, northeast 15 to 20, Norton Sound, St. Lawrence Island. Northwest 20 knots along the Yukon Delta coast. South and Nunivak Island, small craft advisories west to 25, west 30. Good stiff westerly wind there for the Pribilofs with 11-foot seas and 25-knot winds, St. Matthew Island. Eastern Beaufort Sea coast tomorrow. Light winds north to northeast at 10, east at 10 for the Central Coast, 3-foot seas, and east 20 at 20 knots here for the western coast, and Cape Beaufort to Cape Thompson, northeast at 25, 7-foot seas, Cape Thompson to Wales, east at 15. And then for the outlook for Sunday, pick the winds up to 20 knots here on the eastern Beaufort Sea coast out of the east with 5-foot seas coming up a little bit there, and east of 15 for the central Arctic coast. Small craft advisories on the west side here. 25 out of the east, seas building to 6 feet, and 25-knot winds all the way down to Cape Thompson. Then you're back down to 15 knots from Cape Thompson all the way down to Wales. And for tonight, next system bringing rain and small craft advisory winds with it eastward, gradually possibly reaching Nikolsky late tonight. Showers diminish and winds diminish for the Alaska Peninsula, and not bad dry for Kodiak Island, clearing skies over the interior, and scattered showers here over the southern panhandle especially will turn into rain as this shifts in late tonight and early tomorrow, and then begin to decrease late. It's going to take probably all day for that to happen over the southern panhandle. Mostly sunny, nice over the interior. And Sunday, the next storm brings rain, possibly moderate into the southern interior.
These forecasts are for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating.